I'm sure you do too. I probably still work 70 hours a week when I'm at home editing videos and other crap. I got to figure out last week I was painting a helicopter. I had about 90 hours in it in 1 week.
What if the smartest business decision isn't scaling up, hiring more people, or taking investor money? In today's world, that sounds almost irresponsible. Yet a small equipment yard in rural Indiana is shipping military trucks and heavy machinery to Africa, Australia, and Alaska, while attracting nearly 2 million YouTube views every month.
Oh, I see the problem, Kip.
Most entrepreneurs would call that the perfect launchpad for a massive expansion. Clinton and Bridget Chitwood looked at the same opportunity and did the opposite. They refused outside control, refused aggressive growth, and refused to turn their company into an empire. The result is one of the most unusual success stories on the internet. 7 generations of Indiana iron. Long before YouTube cameras, viral videos, or international customers were part of his life, Clinton Chitwood's story began on family farmland in Monroe County, Indiana. The property had been passed down through 7 generations, and that history shaped the way he viewed work, ownership, and responsibility. For Clinton, land was never just property. It represented the efforts of generations who had worked it before him, and that created a mindset focused on building something that would last, rather than chasing quick success. Clinton did not enter the heavy equipment industry through a business seminar, a corporate job, or an investment opportunity. His education came from real life. His father worked in the excavating business, which meant bulldozers, excavators, dump trucks, loaders, and construction machinery were part of his everyday environment from childhood. While many children saw those machines only from the side of the road, Clinton grew up around them, listening to engines, watching repairs, and learning how different pieces of equipment behaved under real working conditions. Over time, he developed an instinct that many equipment dealers spend decades trying to acquire. He could often tell when a machine was running properly simply by the sound of the engine or the way it moved under load. More importantly, he understood that equipment was not about appearances. Contractors and operators needed machines that would start every morning, survive harsh conditions, and keep working when jobs were on the line. Durability mattered far more than shiny paint. That practical understanding gave Clinton an advantage that could not be learned from a textbook. He understood not only how equipment worked, but how people depended on it. He knew the frustrations of breakdowns, the importance of reliable machinery, and the value of honest assessments when buying or selling used equipment. In 2004, Clinton decided to build something of his own. He launched CNC Equipment in Indiana as a used civilian heavy equipment operation. The beginning was modest. There were no investors providing startup capital, no elaborate marketing campaign, and no ambitious business plan promising rapid national expansion. The company started with industry knowledge, hard work, and a reputation for understanding machinery better than many competitors. Around the same time, Bridget entered his life through a blind date arranged by family members. What began as a personal relationship quickly evolved into a true business partnership. She was never simply an observer watching the company grow from the sidelines. From the very beginning, CNC Equipment was built as a family operation, and that remained a defining part of its identity. During its early years, the company looked much like many other small equipment dealerships scattered across the Midwest. Clinton bought used machinery, repaired and reconditioned it, and resold it to local contractors, farmers, and equipment operators. The customer base was mostly regional, and nothing about the business suggested that it would one day attract customers from multiple continents or become the subject of a popular YouTube channel. But Clinton possessed a trait that would eventually change everything. He had a habit of seeing opportunity where other people saw problems. He was often drawn to machines that other dealers considered too unusual, too complicated, or too risky to bother with. Instead of avoiding overlooked equipment, he became curious about it. That willingness to look beyond the obvious and recognize value in places others ignored would eventually lead him to a market that transformed the future of CNC equipment and set the stage for the remarkable success that followed. The military surplus gamble. In 2008, Clinton Chitwood made a decision that many equipment dealers would have considered far too risky. Instead of focusing solely on traditional construction machinery, he began purchasing decommissioned military surplus vehicles. At the time, the market was anything but attractive. Military equipment often came with unknown maintenance histories, unusual specifications, and limited appeal to ordinary buyers. Many dealers saw it as a headache filled with unpredictable repairs, difficult parts sourcing, and a small customer base. The safer choice was to stay with standard excavators, loaders, and dump trucks that contractors already understood. Clinton saw something completely different. He recognized the value of rugged, battle-tested machines built to survive conditions that would destroy many civilian vehicles. His inventory began to include M35, A2 2.5-ton 6x6 trucks, 5-ton military cargo trucks, Humvees, and ex-military construction equipment originally designed for demanding military operations around the world. These vehicles were not built for luxury or convenience. They were designed for remote terrain, extreme weather, heavy loads, and situations where failure was not an option. Clinton understood that there were customers who cared far more about reliability than comfort, and that insight became the foundation of a completely new direction for CNC equipment. Rather than simply cleaning up the trucks and reselling them as surplus equipment, Clinton began customizing them extensively. He added air ride suspensions, upgraded seating, crew cab conversions, front and rear steering systems, and other specialized modifications that transformed military workhorses into unique specialty vehicles. Every build became a one-of-a-kind project. Some were designed for off-road recreation, others for remote work environments, and still others for customers who wanted a vehicle unlike anything available from a traditional manufacturer. The finished trucks attracted attention everywhere they went. Clinton later joked that when he drove one of the custom crew cab military trucks down the road, people would often stop, stare, and take pictures because they had never seen anything quite like it. The market responded quickly. These customized military builds began selling for $20,000 to $55,000, and demand kept increasing. Then something happened that even Clinton had not fully anticipated. The buyers were not just coming from Indiana or even from the United States. Orders began arriving from Africa, Asia, Alaska, and Australia. A small Indiana equipment yard was suddenly shipping heavy military vehicles to some of the most remote places in the world. The reason was surprisingly practical. Older military vehicles rely heavily on mechanical systems rather than complex electronics. They have fewer computerized controls, fewer emissions-related components, and fewer specialized diagnostic requirements than many modern commercial trucks. In remote regions where replacement parts are scarce and trained technicians are difficult to find, that simplicity becomes a tremendous advantage. A truck that can be repaired with basic tools, common mechanical knowledge, and improvised solutions is often far more valuable than a modern vehicle that requires proprietary software and dealership support to diagnose even minor problems. Without a formal international expansion strategy, CNC Equipment had quietly built a global customer base from a small yard in rural Indiana. Machines that once served military operations were now being shipped across 6 continents to customers who needed durable, dependable transportation for mines, farms, construction sites, expeditions, and remote industrial projects. It was an extraordinary transformation. A business that had started as a modest used equipment operation was becoming known in specialized circles around the world for its unusual military builds and practical engineering. Yet at that point, almost nobody outside the heavy equipment industry had ever heard of Clinton and Bridget Chitwood. The global reputation was growing quietly, one customized military truck at a time, long before YouTube would introduce CNC equipment to millions of viewers. The YouTube channel. Nobody expected. On October 6, 2012, CNC Equipment uploaded its very first YouTube video. Looking back, it is almost impossible to imagine how significant that moment would become. There was no production crew standing behind the camera, no media consultant offering advice, and no carefully planned content strategy designed to chase views or subscribers. Clinton Chitwood simply started filming the work he was already doing every day. The early videos showed equipment repairs, auction visits, machine inspections, and Clinton's honest opinions about the heavy equipment industry. They were not polished, the lighting was inconsistent, the camera work was basic, and the editing was minimal. But those rough edges became the channel's greatest strength because viewers immediately recognized that nothing about it felt staged. Unlike many modern YouTube creators, Clinton was not trying to create artificial excitement. There were no dramatic music cues, no exaggerated reactions, and no manufactured arguments designed to keep viewers watching. A typical CNC equipment video might run 45 minutes or longer, with much of that time devoted to real work, real conversations, and detailed explanations about machinery that most mainstream audiences would never notice. By conventional YouTube standards, the channel should have struggled. Long-form videos about used heavy equipment, yet something unexpected happened. Viewers kept coming back. Today, nearly 2 million people watch the channel every month, and the numbers are unusually impressive when compared to its subscriber count. With roughly 173,000 subscribers, CNC equipment looks relatively small beside mainstream YouTube giants with millions of followers. But the view counts tell a very different story. The audience is remarkably loyal, returning week after week regardless of trends, viral challenges, or algorithm changes. Many viewers watch nearly every upload because they trust Clinton's knowledge and enjoy the feeling of being inside a real working equipment yard. Clinton typically uploads about 2 videos each week, and the same philosophy that governs the business governs the channel itself. Keep it in-house, keep it honest, and keep it useful. The videos are less about entertainment and more about sharing genuine experience with people who appreciate straightforward information. Then came the upload that introduced CNC equipment to a much larger audience than anyone expected. At a government surplus auction, Clinton purchased what appeared to be an ordinary Ford pickup truck. From the outside, it looked like countless other government vehicles that pass through surplus sales every year. There was nothing obviously unusual about it, and Clinton likely expected it to be just another used truck that would eventually be cleaned up and resold. But as he began inspecting it more carefully, he discovered something strange inside the camper shell. Hidden within the truck were computers, cameras, surveillance hardware, and other electronic equipment that had apparently been left behind. The more Clinton looked, the clearer it became that this had not simply been a routine government work truck. It appeared to be some kind of mobile surveillance unit, and the equipment had somehow slipped through the auction process without being removed. True to his usual approach, Clinton did not try to turn the discovery into a sensational production. He simply documented what he found and uploaded the footage to YouTube. The response was immediate. People who had never heard of CNC equipment suddenly found themselves watching a man in rural Indiana uncover what looked very much like a genuine government spy truck purchased at a public auction. The video spread rapidly across social media, attracting attention far beyond the heavy equipment community. Viewers were fascinated not only by the discovery itself, but by the casual, matter-of-fact way Clinton presented it. The story became even more extraordinary when government officials later arrived to recover the remaining technology from the truck. That detail confirmed that the discovery was not simply a misunderstanding or a collection of random electronics. Something significant had indeed been overlooked during the auction process. The incident perfectly captured what makes the CNC equipment channel so unusual. The unpredictability is not scripted, rehearsed, or manufactured for clicks. Clinton is not creating fictional drama. He is simply documenting real work as it happens. Sometimes that means repairing a piece of equipment, sometimes it means evaluating a military truck, and occasionally it means stumbling across a story so unusual that it sounds like something written for a television thriller. In an online world filled with carefully engineered content, CNC equipment proved that honest documentation of real life can be more compelling than anything a scriptwriter could invent. Exposing the scammers. The spy truck may have brought sudden attention to CNC equipment, but another part of the channel earned something far more valuable than viral views: trust. The heavy equipment industry has a serious and growing fraud problem. Scammers frequently steal photographs from legitimate auction sites, copy descriptions from real dealerships, and build convincing fake websites that appear professional at first glance. They advertise excavators, bulldozers, trucks, and other expensive machines that do not actually exist. Buyers are then pressured to send deposits, or sometimes full payments, for equipment they will never receive. Because so much equipment is now purchased remotely, the danger is significant. A contractor in another state, or even another country, may never have the opportunity to inspect a machine in person before wiring thousands of dollars. Once the money is sent, the scammer often disappears completely. Clinton Chitwood decided not to stay quiet about the problem. Instead of handling suspicious cases privately, he began exposing the scams publicly on YouTube. He would pull up fake listings, compare them with the original auction photos that had been stolen, and explain exactly how the fraud worked. He showed viewers the warning signs, prices that were unrealistically low, dealers with no verifiable address, stock photos reused across multiple websites, and sellers who refused video calls or inspections. His videos were practical rather than dramatic. Clinton focused on teaching viewers how to protect themselves before sending any money. He demonstrated ways to verify whether a dealer was legitimate, how to check business registrations, how to confirm that equipment serial numbers were real, and why buyers should be cautious when a seller insists on unusual payment methods. What made his approach stand out was its directness. There was no corporate public relations language, and no attempt to avoid offending dishonest sellers. If something appeared fraudulent, Clinton said so plainly. That straightforward attitude resonated with viewers because they could tell he was more interested in protecting people than in maintaining a polished image. Over time, people realized they were not just watching entertaining equipment videos. They were learning from someone who consistently prioritized truth over appearances. That reputation became one of the strongest assets CNC Equipment possessed. By this stage, the company had already developed the infrastructure necessary to become much larger. Clinton had built a substantial facility in Trevelack, Indiana, with large buildings specifically designed for heavy machinery. Reinforced steel tracks were embedded directly into the floors to support equipment weighing more than 40 tons. The shop also contained a CNC plasma table capable of cutting large steel sheets, and true to his philosophy, Clinton taught himself how to program and operate the machine rather than hiring outside specialists. The opportunities for expansion were everywhere. Global customers were already buying equipment. The YouTube audience was growing rapidly. Sponsorship offers, partnerships, and outside business interest were becoming inevitable. Most business owners in that position would have focused on scaling aggressively, hiring more employees, opening additional locations, and pursuing faster growth. Clinton focused on something else entirely: control. He explained the decision in a remarkably simple way. Our business model is to keep it in-house as much as possible. We could make our business bigger, but we would lose some control. That statement did not reflect a lack of ambition. It reflected a clear understanding of what rapid growth would require: additional management layers, outside influence, more bureaucracy, and less direct involvement in the work that had made CNC Equipment successful in the first place. The Chitwoods made a deliberate choice that almost no modern entrepreneur makes. Instead of chasing the largest possible company, they chose to protect the quality, independence, and honesty that had earned their customers' trust in the first place. The philosophy of staying small. The most revealing part of the CNC Equipment story is what the Chitwoods did with the freedom that staying small gave them. Their focus was not simply on preserving profit margins or avoiding stress. They redirected that control toward quality, relationships, and community. CNC Equipment quietly supports the local fire department and sheriff's department in Brown County, Indiana. There are no elaborate marketing campaigns attached to those contributions. Bridgetette explained it in the simplest possible terms. We want the community to thrive. We donate just because the community has been good to us. Each summer, the company participates in Brown County's Touch a Truck event, where children can climb into and explore heavy equipment up close. The event raises money for the Weekend Backpack program, which provides food for underprivileged students who receive free lunches during the school week but may have little to eat over the weekend. That detail is easy to overlook when discussing international equipment sales and YouTube statistics, but it reveals the deeper philosophy behind the business. Clinton often summarizes that philosophy in 5 words: you got to be nice to everybody. Those words apply whether he is helping a customer in Australia, warning viewers about a scammer, answering questions from a local kid at a community event, or writing a check to support emergency services. Most companies measure success through revenue growth, employee count, and market share. The Chitwoods seem to measure it through something much harder to quantify: whether they can maintain control of their work, stand behind the quality of what they sell, and leave their local community better than they found it. That is what makes CNC Equipment such an unusual success story. From a small Indiana yard, They built a business with customers on 6 continents and a YouTube channel attracting nearly 2 million monthly views. They had every opportunity to become much larger, and they understood exactly how to do it. They simply decided that bigger was not the same thing as better. In a world obsessed with scaling faster, hiring bigger teams, and chasing endless growth, CNC Equipment chose a path that looks almost rebellious. Clinton and Bridget Chitwood proved that a business can reach customers across 6 continents, build a loyal YouTube audience, and create real impact in its local community without surrendering control to investors, franchises, or corporate expansion. Their story is not just about heavy equipment or military trucks. It is about knowing what matters enough to protect it, even when the world tells you to grow bigger. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe for more remarkable real-life business journeys.